Hey everyone, it's Alex here. I'm going to walk through a NAS that's been on a lot of people's radar for the last few months, the Synology RackStation RS820RP. If you're the type who feels a little hesitant every time you add a new piece of gear to your office or home lab, you're not alone. You want that real-world feel. Does it actually save you time, protect your data, and fit into the budget you've set, without ending up with an expensive box you never touch? That's exactly the lens I'm using today. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the scenario that usually brings a small to medium business, or a power user into the NAS market. You've got a handful of critical projects, maybe a few VMS, a growing media library, and you're tired of juggling external drives that are always somewhere, whether that's a dusty shelf or a cluttered home office desk. The idea of a rack-mounted, 4-bay unit that can hold SSDs and give you redundant power sounds like a perfect upgrade, but the question is, does the RS820RP Plus actually deliver on that promise in everyday use? The RS820RP Plus is built for a standard 19-inch rack, so if you already have a rack in place, installation is straightforward. You slide the chassis into a slot, secure it with the provided rails, and you're ready to mount drives. The unit itself arrives sealed empty. The drives and the 18 GB of DDR4 RAM are not pre-installed. That's a conscious cost-saving decision from Synology. It means you can choose exactly the drives you want, but it also adds a small setup step that some users might overlook. In my test environment, I populated the 4 bays with 4 TB 2.5-inch SATA SSDs, because I wanted fast access for a couple of active projects and a reliable backup target for the rest of my data. The process took about 10 minutes. Open the front panel, slot in the drives, close the panel, and power it up. Now, the real test starts when DSM Synology's DiskStation Manager boots for the first time. The OS is surprisingly clean. It greets you with a step-by-step wizard that walks you through network configuration, volume creation, and setting up the first shared folder. For someone who's not a Linux guru, the interface feels almost as easy as using a consumer router, but it also offers enough depth that a seasoned admin can tinker with BTIFS snapshots, IAID type selection, and automated backup tasks. One of the practical strengths I noticed is the redundant power supply. In a small office setting, it's common to have a single power line feeding all equipment. When the primary PSU was unplugged, simulating a power hiccup, the unit switched over to the backup PSU seamlessly. No reboot, no data hiccup. That's a tangible piece of mind for anyone whose business can't afford even a few minutes of downtime. Performance-wise, the Atom C3538 quad-core CPU at 2.1 GHz isn't a gaming processor, but it's perfectly adequate for file serving, media streaming, and even light virtualization. I ran a couple of Docker containers, a Home Assistant instance, and a small Nextcloud install side by side. Neither container showed significant CPU throttling, and the system handled multiple simultaneous SMB reads without dropping bandwidth. If you intend to run heavy transcoding jobs or GPU-accelerated workloads, you'll need a more beefy box, but for most office file sharing, backup, and modest media streaming, the RS820RP Plus sits comfortably within its sweet spot. A common hesitation point is storage capacity. The base configuration includes 4 4TB SSDs for a total of 16 TB raw. With RAID 1 mirroring, the most common setup for data safety, you essentially end up with 8 TB of usable space. That's enough for an office of 1,015 people storing documents, project files, and a moderate amount of high-resolution media. If you're a photographer with a growing archive or a small video production house, you'll likely need to expand beyond the initial 16 TB. Synology does allow expansion with additional expansion units, but each added unit costs a premium, so the cost per terabyte can climb quickly. The hidden trade-off is that you're paying for rack mount convenience and redundancy, not for massive storage density out of the box. Another practical nuance, the network ports. 1GB ports are useful for link aggregation, which can double throughput and add a bit of redundancy. In my setup, I bonded 2 ports for a 2 gigabits per second pipe to the switch. While that's more than enough for typical office file transfers, you won't get the kind of multi-gigabit speeds you might expect from newer 10 GB capable NAS units. If your network infrastructure already runs 10 GBE, the RS820RP Plus could become a bottleneck. So it's best suited for environments where the network is still at the 1 GBE level, or where you can budget for an upgrade down the line. Who should buy this machine? If you're a small to medium business that already has a rack, needs reliable storage with built-in redundancy, and values an OS that's both approachable and feature-rich, the RS820RP Plus is a solid choice. It also works well